Mush. Aw, thank you.
This is the real entrance to London Bridge. Most people pass by every day and have no idea that this is all that remains of London's most important landmark. And this is what the proper medieval London Bridge looked like. It had actual houses and shops in the middle of the river. It may not have been very practical, but it was iconic. By the 18th century, these dark, narrow passageways just became too much of a hassle, and the foundations were crumbling beneath them. And that's where we got the song, London Bridge is falling down. Ugh. So it was time to rebuild, and the last trace of the old London Bridge is right here, the pedestrian entrance built into the tower of St. Magnus the Martyr's Church. Right
Cool.
beside it, a new London Bridge was opened in 1831, and then again in the 1960s. And it's so bland. It's brutalist architecture, which is purposefully bland, but why have this when you can have that? London Bridge is now the worst bridge in London. It's purposely devoid of any beauty. Why would we have commemorated the birthplace of our city with a sad slab of gray cement? Sorry. Let the new London Bridge be bland for the masses, but you and me will always know about Magnus. This
I have quite possibly the worst artifact.
But thank you. I'm tired. Okay. That makes me feel nice.
Bad movie idea. So you got a guy who's just living his best life. He has the perfect job, perfect wife, perfect life. Like stereotypical American dream. He's got his wedding photos as his home screen on his phone. But everything is not how it seems. The beginning of the movie shows the first day, this guy going to work, living his life, whatever. But the next day, he goes to work just like he did yesterday, and the building he works at is just gone. Like, there is just a blank space, like a Minecraft chunk error where his work used to be. So the guy sees this, and he tries to call his boss, he tries to call his wife, he tries to call anybody that he can, but nobody picks up. And he's like, what's going on? Like, did I miss a memo? Like, what am I supposed to do? So he rushes home, but when he gets home, same thing. His house, gone. Just a blank space. So he tries to call his wife, but now when he looks at her phone, her contact info isn't saved. Like, her name is nowhere to be found. And even stranger, when he goes to his home screen, the picture of him and his wife from his wedding, it's just him. She's not there. So now he has to figure out what's going on as more and more parts of his life start to disappear. Bad movie idea. So you got a guy who's just living his best life. He has the...
Let's make the worst rated cupcakes from Yumly.
How bad could it be? There's salt.
Salt?
Oh, too soon, because even though there's only half a cup of flour, there's an entire cup of sugar.
Oh no. How's that even gonna bake?
Carefully. 2 teaspoons of white vinegar.
Why?
Recipe says so. This has me a little
Oh my god.
just by its consistency. These cupcake liners are going to have the recipe as is. These ones, I'm gonna try to add a little bit more flour and make this recipe make sense. Oh yeah, definitely looks better. These are mine. These are the original recipe.
I'm having a real struggle getting this out.
Oh, that crunch.
Oddly enough, the flavor's okay, but you have this crispy edge on the inside is just like this oily mess. That's
Whoa.
good. So it's not the best cupcake I've had in the world, but it's not.
This right here, this is me making a bookmark out of a bookmark
Huh.
page. Because has this ever happened to you where you want to hold your place in your book, but you don't want to fold the page?
Whoa, weird. It should be like extremely late over there. Oh, it is. It is. It's 12:07. I'm doing a 24-hour stream. I might take a nap at some point. Like, I feel like I need to. I am, but like I don't know if people would be mad at me for doing that, but at the same time I feel like I need one, but I don't know. I'll think about it. We're just watching YouTube.
This brand new Pokemon from Scarlet and Violet just stole its design from an iconic Generation 1 Pokemon. Bellybolt, who resembles an avocado, is actually identified as the Elefrog Pokemon. This electric type measures 3'11" and weighs a heap
I'm
of
doing good.
50 pounds.
Damn, boy, he fit.
But one thing sticks out from this easygoing Pokemon's design. It is almost an exact copy-paste of Chansey. But there is more than meets the eye. No, seriously, don't let his bulging eyes fool you. These are his eyes.
Yeah.
The eyes of a frog who will fry you with one bolt of thunder. A thunderbolt generated from his glorious belly. Pokemon describes further, after the sun sets, you can hear strange noises coming from Bellybolt's habitat. This noise is not Bellybolt's cries, but a sound emitting from their stomachs. It is known that this sound signals that they are hungry. When Bellybolt becomes so ravenous, the sound produced from its stomach can echo an entire habitat. I wouldn't want to be caught in the crossfire of a hungry Bellybolt and his next meal. This brand new Pokemon
Trevor Project exists. Y'all are doing the Lord's.
Cyndaquil is a good design that's kind of let down.
Okay, thank you, but then we're gonna go back to that because no one be making fun of my boy. He's my boy. But yeah, no. Yeah. I'm super honest. I'm honestly super happy to at least raise some money for people because it's always awesome. So,
By the aesthetic of early Pokemon. Partly due to sprite limitations, early designs are generally built more simply, and while the idea of an echidna with fire quills is absolutely S tier, Cyndaquil is just a bit too simplistic to actually carry it off, I think.
No, you're just wrong.
It doesn't look convincingly like quills, and the two colors with a boundary approach to fur rendering just doesn't get the model pattern of an echidna across. Quilava works better in this regard, bringing in the vibes of a weasel or a badger and a sharper general shape language that gives it more animal believability. It does lose the adorable echidna nose, which I thought was always a loss for this evolution line. I really wish they'd kept that throughout the whole thing. Typhlosion then brings that vibe to a natural crescendo, using the flames less as spikes and more as a majestic collar to denote its aggression. And while it's fairly simple as a design, it does look cool. Hisuian Typhlosion with its ghost type leans into a more devious, mischievous energy than aggressive, with it now spirit flame collar, giving it the kind of look of a scheming vizier or dark sorcerer. I don't think it's an improvement over the base form, but it's a really cool and interesting variation that I like. Subscribe to this channel for shorts, or see my main channel for longer in-depth videos. Cyndaquil is a good design that's kind of
Quick question. What do you think this is? A mechanical chomper or a cap?
Gotta sit up.
Actually, this is called a Venus box, and you can use it in many ways. I'll show you guys later why my cat calls it a trap. So here...
I brought a New York City slice of pizza to Naples, Italy to see which one is better. And representing NYC, we have none other than Joe's Pizza. You can't go wrong with Joe's since the sauce, cheese, and crust make for an absolute delicious slice. So the overall score for Joe's is a 9.0. Now for this head-to-head battle, we're taking this Joe's Pizza with us all the way to Italy. So this little slice right here is going on an adventure. After 10 hours, we made it to the birthplace of pizza, Naples, Italy. Unfortunately, the slice started to mold and the cheese fell off the moment we got here, but it's now time to see which pizza is better. La Antica de Michele is known for having the best pizza on planet Earth, and it truly was phenomenal. Making our winner, La Antica de Michele with a 9.4. I brought
Potato chips were created to get revenge. Look at this. So in the 19th century, French fries made their way to America and became super popular. Many restaurants served French fries as their main dish. They'd call them potatoes served in the French manner. Then in 1853, we've got this guy, George Crumb. He's the chef of Moon's Lake House in Saratoga Springs, New York. His signature dish was Moon's fried potatoes. One day, Cornelius Vanderbilt sits down at his restaurant and orders some fries. Crumb serves him a plate of fries, but Vanderbilt sends them back because they're soggy. Crumb serves him another plate, and Vanderbilt sends him back saying they're not crisp enough. They do this dance a couple more times, but now Crumb is livid. So he goes back to the kitchen and starts slicing paper-thin potatoes. He throws them in the fryer and brings them out to Vanderbilt. But there's a problem. In the 19th century, it was super faux pas to eat with your hands. And this was George Crumb's trick. He knew that if he made these potatoes super thin, Vanderbilt wouldn't be able to eat them with a fork. But the trick backfired when Vanderbilt dug into the chips with 2 hands and loved that. Chips were born. Potato chips were created to get revenge. Look at this. So
Mega Evolutions were one of the gimmicks Game Freak came up with to keep the battle systems quote-unquote fresh. Z-moves were the battle gimmick of Gen 7, which is why there were no new Mega forms. Then, Sword and Shield's battle gimmicks were Dynamax and Gigantamax. The removal of Z-moves were kind of sort of obvious as it was made clear that it was an Alolan thing. Megas, according to the game lore, came into existence when AZ fired the ultimate weapon, and in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, it was made clear that there are 2 timelines. One, where AZ didn't fire the weapon, hence no Megas, and the other, where Gen 6 and 7 are in, where Megas exist. So if we use the game lore, Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet are set in the original timeline where AZ did not fire the weapon, hence no Megas. If we look at it outside the game lore, Game Freak probably just decided to ditch the feature to make way for their new battle gimmick idea.
Yeah.
Mega Evolutions.
3, 2, 1.
Dude, are you serious? You've been in bed all day and all.
My husband always says that one of the moments that he knew I was the one was when I made my spicy garlic noodle soup in the middle of the night after a long road trip. Funny enough, that was also one of my moments. After he finished eating, he got up without asking at 3 a.m. in the morning and started cleaning the kitchen and doing the dishes. And I call that teamwork. Whenever I post my husband's weekly lunches, I always have people asking me, why can't he pack his own lunch? Well, it's simple. I love cooking and food is my love language. And that's how I show my appreciation for everything else he does for me. Me and my husband have been together for 7 years, and my husband always says that one of the
Did you know at the beginning of Pokemon Red and Blue you can actually get all 3 starters? Let me show you how. So we're gonna start a new game and head to the lab. And the first starter Pokemon we're gonna choose is Charmander. I'm gonna call him Subscribe because you totally should. We are going to save our game. Once we save the game, we're gonna reset. We are now going to start another new game. As you can see, we have no Pokemon. We're gonna save the game again. Older file will be erased to save. Is that okay? Click yes, but you have to reset your game after the little yes or no box goes away and before any of the text changes on the bottom. Here we go. We're gonna select continue this time, and we should have Charmander on the team. Let's go. So now we're gonna do this all over again, but this time we're gonna select Squirtle. We are gonna save the game, reset. We're gonna start another new game. Here we go. Click continue, and now we should have the Charmander and the Squirtle, and now we will go pick up our Bulbasaur, and that is how you get all 3 starter Pokemon at the beginning of Pokemon Red and Blue.
Neat.
These are some of my skill-based plunger trick shots from easiest to hardest. The backwards Honda trick shot was decently easy, and the Eyes of Hooters was a little bit more difficult. My plunger trick shot on the Apple Leaf took even more precision than that. After that, the Mercedes sign was pretty hard, but I had a little bit more time to do it. My next trick shot required even more precision. Porsche invited me to put a plunger on all 5 different sections of their logo. Getting 2 plungers on the Eyes of Wendy's was super difficult because of how small they are. And after I revealed my masterpiece, I only had 4 throws to get a plunger on the Burger 5-star because they had onion rings on them. I had to complete the entire call sign blindfolded in under 10 minutes to win a $500 gift card, and that was extremely hard. It was literally a buzzer beater. And then another company challenged me. This driving plunger trick shot took me about 30 minutes. This Verizon sign was insanely tall, so I had to keep throwing underhand until I got it. And after that was this insanely tall convenience store sign that took over 48 minutes. And finally, this plunger trick shot on a moving Rolo van took 2 hours. And yes, I got permission for all of them. These are some of
After 49 hours, I built this.
Take your hand and hold it closer to mine. Yeah. Our love is every change your mind. My heart's a stereo. It beats for you, so listen. Hear my thoughts in every note.
It's Ronaldo.
While the
Okay.
comparison is tempting, I don't think Sentret is the Rattata of Gen 2. I think it's the Zigzagoon of Gen 2. And for all that it's a genuinely pretty useless Pokemon from a gameplay perspective, I have a real fondness for its design. It mixes attributes of raccoons, rabbits, and flying squirrels into a big chimeric mishmash that simultaneously gives it the look of an animal and some sort of weird Studio Ghibli spirit creature. The long tail contrasted against its essential...
I just saw this photo today for the very first time, and my brain couldn't quite comprehend it. I kept thinking, this has to be staged in some way. How could this situation possibly exist? Do you see him there in the background? It's just a soldier in a defensive position while these old ladies are shopping. It
Yeah.
looks like everyday life in a war zone simultaneously. How can that be? It's because these are photos of the British Army's occupation of Northern Ireland, taken by photojournalist Philip Jones Griffiths. The local population mostly went about their daily routines, but often they mocked or derided the soldiers as they passed by. At a minimum, I mean, the violence was almost constant during that time.
Why did I train my pet duck to walk on a leash? The simplest answer is that I wanted to provide enrichment for her outside her home in a way that was safe for her as well as everyone around us. Because even though she'll follow me around, that doesn't keep her safe. 95% of the time when I see a dog on a trail, I can quickly scoop her up because she's right next to me and the dog won't even notice that I have her. And when we're in open bodies of water, I consider myself a pretty good deterrent to any nearby turtles or extremely large fish. The biggest misconception I see about duck harnesses is that they're used to prevent these ducks from flying. But for most domesticated ducks, it is physically impossible for them to fly in the first place. But for ducks like Munchkin who live in a predator-proof pen, flying is not essential to their survival whatsoever. So they honestly don't do it much. I think it's also important to note that a lot of the places we visit have something called a leash law, and with a leash law, it doesn't matter if you're walking a dog, a cat, or a flying elephant.
Flying elephant.
But the bottom line is, she enjoys it, and she deserves an enriching life just like any other domestic animal.
Yeah.
I promise you, if a duck did not want to walk on a leash, they literally just would not do it. Why did I train my...
What I'm making right here is a teaspoon, because earlier this week when I was making my spruce tip cake, I couldn't find my measuring spoon, so I tried to use all the commonly accepted substitutes like a semi-curled tortilla chip, an empty AirPod charging case, and others. Surprisingly, none of those worked, so Miles and I headed out in search of a nice piece of
I was forced to play a real-life game of Would You Rather, and both of the choices were horrible. According to doctors, the way my eyesight disease was killing my vision was by exposing my eyes to light. The more light I exposed myself to, the faster I'd go blind. First choice I had to make was whether or not to quit my job as a voice actor. Before learning to work without monitors, I had my face buried in a bright white monitor, which was horrible for my eyesight, but I declined disability payments and kept on working. Next thing was I could sit at home in a nice dark room, or I could go outside in the light and enjoy my life, doing things like learning how to surf. I kept on working, and I kept on going outside to live my life. But before all of that,
we started surfing together 5 years ago, and I could totally walk down the street by myself.
Now, my friends need to tap on obstacles around me so I can hear them and avoid them. So I get to live my life, but
no more I say for you.
I am happier this way, though.
This is everything you shouldn't do on your first day of college. So I'm walking to class, right? And I immediately have regrets. I wore jeans on the most humid day, and I'm walking uphill, and I'm literally fighting for my life and sweating. Anyway, I finally get to class, and I had to sit in the back, and I do not recommend sitting in the back. Also, I thought my computer was charging. It was not. After class, I went to go get some food in my system, and I changed my outfit to be more appropriate for the weather, and things were finally looking up. Went back to campus, and there was a bunch of tables with free snacks, and there was a bunch of info tables for clubs you can join. Then I headed to my next class, which is project management, and apparently everyone and their mom is trying to get in this class. Like, the professor said people are bribing her with money to get in. Anyway, then after class, I went back to go enter this merch raffle, and we found a free t-shirt table that I think was for Cornell engineers. We're not even engineers. We still ended up getting t-shirts, and we found this cute little photo booth with a bunch of props and stuff. Then it started thundering and pouring rain, bro. This is why I always tell you to bring an umbrella, so you don't end up like him, and instead you can be like her. Luckily, I was inside, and I didn't have to go anywhere, so I just watched my class on Zoom. It was so boring, and we did introductions, and I was the last one to go. I was dreading it. Then I went to college.
$2 pumpkin spice lattes? Apparently you can order it manually and get it for $2 instead of the regular price of $6. So here's what I did. I went to Starbucks and ordered
A wild dog was brought in today, and I thought he was a hyena at first. This is Duke, and even though his snaggletooth makes him look a little wild, he isn't actually a wild dog.
Jeff Bezos forced Amazon employees to write. Why? Let's say you work at a company and you've got a new idea. Something that you want to propose to your team that you're excited about. So you tell a couple people, they tell a couple people, you tell a few others, and then you start playing telephone, right? Each time your idea is shared, some information is lost. This is the problem with asynchronous work. So Jeff Bezos would demand that any issues or proposals were written down. Then everybody was required to come to a meeting where they would spend the first 5 minutes reading that new idea or proposal together. Then and only then could a discussion occur. What do you think? Was it okay that Jeff...
While I was cuddling with my foster kitten, I noticed flea dirt, which probably means she has fleas. I ran a warm bath with Dawn dish soap. I'm putting a ring of Dawn dish soap around her neck, as we do with flea baths. I do this so the fleas don't run up her neck to her face. I keep her head above water while I dunk her so the fleas can die.
So the fleas can die.
Top 5 rarest shiny Pokemon. Number 5 is shiny shadow Pokemon in Pokemon Colosseum. A shiny shadow Pokemon has a 1 in 8,192 chance of being shiny after battling multiple trainers. Number 4 is shiny Pokemon from the Gen 1 games, because shiny Pokemon didn't exist then. However, if you caught a Pokemon with shiny
Hi, Cobra.
abilities, it would become shiny if transferred to Gen 2 games. Number 3 is authentic shiny Synestia. Encountering this shiny has a chance of about 1 in...
Don't
Yeah.
use basic camos on Warzone. Today, we get you gold as fast as possible. 4 challenges unlock at different levels, so max out your gun first to complete them at the same time. 50 kills, ADS kills, and double kills are easier on objective game modes like Domination and Hardpoint. For hip firing, use attachments increasing hip fire accuracy, play small maps like Farm 18. Ah, gold. Not yet. Now the hardest challenge you'll ever face.
I don't know.
3 kills without dying. Play objective game modes, or if that doesn't work, hop into ground war and flank enemies one by one. The best tips, tricks, and guides are right here at LA.
Many Pokemon designs are inspired by real-life creatures.
Inside this box is a mystery item that I'll be...
Is this just a bunch of logos? I guess it's a bunch of logos. Thank you, Cobra. It's pretty smooth, I'm not gonna lie. It's cool looking. That was cool. That was cool.
In classic dad fashion, my dad fell in love with the puppy we got.
So I decided to attempt the Void Death World record on Bed Wars again. So if you saw one of my recent videos...
Bad movie idea. Okay, so you got a guy who's overweight and out of shape, but through some superhero movie logic, he is granted super speed. But this doesn't negate the fact that he's still out of shape and overweight. So any super speed running he does is just as difficult as like going for a jog. Like he still has low stamina. This means that while he has super speed, he's only just like scratching the surface of his true potential. So his max speed is like 40 miles per hour, which is still faster than Usain Bolt's record of just over 27 miles per hour, but not like the flash speed of light levels. So instead of training to go...
It's time we color swap every Hoenn starter Pokemon, starting with Trico. Mudkip's blue looks pretty dang solid with Trico, and I can say the same about Trico with Torchic's colors, which I think is a good indication of how well designed Trico really is. I really feel like it could look good no matter what colors you give it. Now, if you're ready for some atrocities, let's move on to Torchic. I think Torchic looks absolutely abysmal with Trico's colors. In my opinion,
like that.
Mudkip's colors work a lot better, but it still doesn't really...
Someone at Pokemon might be getting fired. Yesterday, a trailer dropped showing off more of the upcoming Pokemon games Scarlet and Violet. Only one new Pokemon was officially revealed, but a few others may have slipped through the cracks. Here, you can see new unrevealed Pokemon on the minimap.
Or maybe they just did that on purpose? Like, okay. How long is this? It's still going. Oh, thank God. I was saying it to a friend quickly. Sent. Okay. Yeah, I love video essays. Oh. Just gonna. Okay, I really hope no one was watching that. That was an accident. Should I restart it from the beginning?
American sports. There is so much to tell. There's the dog that chased one of the players around the stadium. There's the kicker who caught his own kick for a touchdown. There's the player who entered the game, took a snap, threw the ball in the air in a state of sheer terror, ran off the field and hid, and of course, there's the score. In 1916, Georgia Tech's football team beat Cumberland College by a score of 202. Oh, sorry. I forgot one.
What? There's no way.
222 points in a game. That is an unbreakable record. It has been 67 years since a team scored even half that many. To do this, Georgia Tech had to score 32 touchdowns in 55 minutes, which means it had to score a touchdown every minute 43. Now, it is fair to say that Georgia Tech was a million times better than Cumberland College, but that doesn't explain this. Vast superiority alone explains Secretariat, who won the Belmont by 31 lengths. It explains the 1940 Chicago Bears, who won the NFL championship 73-0. It explains the time UConn women's basketball took a 74-9 lead on SMU. Those are routes, yeah, they're blowouts. This was an irrational, malicious act of cruelty that just happened to also technically barely be a sporting event. We have accounts of what happened. It's scoreable. We can score it. In the same way we can award a blue ribbon to a supernova.
More nerdy. I do not care about football. This is great.
Cumberland's team, which used to be good, is now terrible. The coach is a reverend from around town who
doesn't know the rules and doesn't approve of all the violence, so he makes up new practice drills that are more to his liking. In one drill, he has two guys stand a few feet apart and just lob the ball to each other over and over and over. In another drill, he has them sit in a circle and close their eyes, and he would place the ball behind one of them, and then they'd have to guess which one had the ball. It was like an even worse version of Duck Duck Goose. I don't know, I feel stupid even talking about it. Unsurprisingly, none of the players came back after that season, and it was up to George Allen, the 20-year-old athletic manager, to save Cumberland football. He figured that if the baseball team could get a little bit of buzz, it could sell enough tickets to finance the football team. So he arranged for Cumberland baseball to beat their opening opponent as badly as they could. The thing is, Cumberland players weren't good enough to do that, so he convinced a minor league baseball team to dress up in Cumberland's uniforms and play as them. It was an entire team full of ringers. I couldn't confirm this, but I believe the minor league team in question was the Nashville Volunteers, half of whom had Major League Baseball experience. Cumberland destroyed Georgia Tech, 22-0. They were hitting everything. After a while, they got bored and they just started bunting every at-bat, and they still scored 3 more runs just by bunting. Georgia Tech baseball was humiliated, and so was their coach. His name was John Heisman.
Heisman? Like the Heisman Trophy?
Heisman was a great baseball coach, but he remains one of football's architects. Let's look at a modern-day football game. The scoreboard shows the down, yardage, and game clock. That was John Heisman's idea. The quarterback yells, "Hut." Heisman came up with that. Then the center snaps the ball in the air to the quarterback. Heisman invented that. Then the quarterback throws a forward pass. Heisman invented that too. This quarterback was the best in the nation, so they gave him a trophy called the Heisman Trophy. In showing up John Heisman, Cumberland angered a football god.
Oh no.
2016 rolled around, and Cumberland no longer had a football team. Heisman didn't care. Georgia Tech Cumberland was on the football schedule, and Heisman threatened to charge the school $3,000 if they forfeited. That's $66,000 in today's money, and it was more than Cumberland could comfortably afford. Heisman had another target, sports writers. He couldn't stand them. You know what I mean? It's not for no reason. Sports writers are useless. We are useless. Heisman took issue with the way sports writers oversimplified. They figured that the more points a team scored, the better that team was. Heisman knew it wasn't as simple as that, so he wanted to rack up as many points on Cumberland as he possibly could to show that if you really wanted to and your opponent was bad enough, you could score as much as you wanted. In order to save themselves a crippling amount of debt, Cumberland rounded up a bunch of law students, some of whom didn't even know how to play football, and sent them to play against what may have been the best football team on the planet. It's the afternoon of October 7th, 1916. H.J. Carney waits for the opening kickoff to fall out of the sky. He doesn't move. He looks to his right, where Edwards, the quarterback, makes a block. He turns to his left, where a man listed as George Murphy gets ready to throw another block. This is not actually George Murphy. This is Johnny Dog Nelson, the only ringer George Allen was able to recruit this time around. He's a former player and a sports writer by trade. Here he is reporting on another football team a month from now. Johnny Dog whiffs entirely. Carney still hasn't moved. He's clobbered right where he caught the ball. Edwards, who made the first block, is knocked out cold. Cumberland has lost its quarterback on the first play of the game.
Holy shit.
Cumberland gains 3 yards on its first play from scrimmage. It's one of only 4 times they'll get past the line of scrimmage all day. They choose to punt on 3rd down, and Tech scores 2 plays later. Cumberland fumbles on 1st and 10, Tech scores. Cumberland fumbles on 1st and 10 again, Tech scores again. By the 18th play of the game,
awesome.
They're already up 28-0. Everything is as it should be. Georgia Tech is a powerhouse. They were in the middle of a 33-game undefeated streak that lasted more than 4 years.
Coming the time, worst case scenario, but it will make it work. Awesome.
Up 28-0. Georgia Tech has stopped at the 1, but it's not because Cumberland stopped them. The opposite, actually. Tech's running back, Strupper, takes it to the 1 untouched. The Cumberland players actually get out of his way. But then he downs it. What happens next comes from a book about this game called You Dropped It, You Pick It Up by Jim Paul. It is the most complete source on this game I was able to find. Sadly, it's out of print. It explains that another of Tech's running backs, Canty Alexander, had yet to ever score a touchdown, and his teammates liked to give him grief about it. A week prior, Tech got to the 1 and handed Alexander the ball, and then his linemen just moved out of the way and let him get clobbered for 3 straight downs, and then they gave somebody else the ball to score on 4th down. They were gonna do the same thing here. The Tech players just hit the dirt and gave up, but then for some reason, the Cumberland players did too. Maybe they were scared, maybe it was some weird animalistic instinct, or maybe they just didn't know what to do. That left Alexander as the only man standing on the field, 1 yard from the goal. This should be the easiest touchdown of all time, but he bobbles the snap and he inadvertently boots it a couple of times before he finally recovers it in the end zone. As a two-team effort, it's probably one of the dumbest plays in the history of football. So
Oh my God.
Georgia Tech receives the kickoff. Yeah, Georgia Tech, who just scored, receives the kickoff. See, back in the day, if your opponent scored on you, you had the option of kicking or receiving on the ensuing play. I don't know why you would ever do this or why this was an option, but it
Hi, comrade.
game, Cumberland chose to kick after being scored on 5 times. Early in the second quarter, Tech leads 70-0. Against all odds, Cumberland actually finds itself at 3rd and 1. Coach Allen wants to catch them off guard, and he wants to do this by punting. George E. Allen will later go on to have an eventful life. He'll serve as a political operative and become close with FDR, Truman, and Eisenhower. They were presidents who had known him. He even wrote a book. It was called Presidents Who Have Known Me. But for now, he is a nervous 20-year-old nobody coaching against John Heisman. He orders his team to punt. But in the huddle, they decide, no, we are absolutely not punting on 3rd and 1. They line up, Leon McDonald gets the pitch right, and then rather than go the 1 yard for the first down, he panics and punts anyway. It bounces out of bounds 11 yards downfield. Play 45. Morris Gouger fields the kick, and Georgia Tech's special team unit somehow overruns him. There's nothing but open field in front of him. He has daylight. Cumberland hasn't even made it to the 50-yard line yet. A touchdown would be unthinkable. Morris trips and falls over a teammate at his own 20. His teammate was looking for his glasses. Play 48. Edwards, the quarterback who was knocked out cold on the first play of the game, is sent back in. He can't really walk straight. He can't even talk. He is showing obvious concussion-like symptoms. He can't call for the snap. His impatient center snaps it anyway and pops him right in the head. Edwards has now appeared in 2 plays and has been carried off the field unconscious 2 times. Later, this will also happen a 3rd time. Today, we look on this with horror. Back then, a concussion was treated about as seriously as a Charlie horse. This game has entered an unbelievably lengthy sequence. Between plays 44 and 82, the line of scrimmage never leaves Cumberland's red zone. For 39 straight plays, about 1/3 of the game, the line of scrimmage for both teams is always inside the Cumberland 20. This is absolutely ludicrous, and it's also what makes Georgia Tech's total offense all the more impressive. See, Tech only managed 471 offensive yards, which is not a ton. That's because they dominated Cumberland's offense so completely that their own offense just didn't have enough room to gain a lot of yards. Look at where their offense got the ball. Only a few of these could be considered real drives in the traditional sense. Most of them started inside the 20. They couldn't gain yards because they kept running out of them. Contrast this with a game Tech played against Vanderbilt in 2016, just a few weeks ago. Tech won 38-7. It was a great game for them. Taking into account turnovers, returns, and every other time they touched the ball on a play-by-play basis, they picked up 17% of the yards they could possibly get. And remember, that's a one-sided route. The 1916 team picked up 72% of all possible yards. No matter where you drop Georgia Tech on the field, they were highly likely to score immediately.
Jesus.
It's staggering. Jim Priest is Georgia Tech's kicker, and he's bored. By the time this game is all over, he will have kicked 18 extra points. He bets his teammate a steak dinner that he can kick a ball through the uprights on a kickoff. But then he one-ups himself, and he turns on the Jets. Morris Gouger, while lining up for the catch, smacks into the goalpost. The ball bounces off his head and into Priest's arms. Jim Priest has just caught his own kickoff for a touchdown.
What?
It's halftime. Coach Allen's team is physically and emotionally destroyed. Cumberland is losing 126-0. If that was
Very quiet.
For today, it would be the worst final score since 1932. Allen has no choice. He has to go talk to the man himself. He figures maybe Heisman will agree to end the game at 1/2. After all, Cumberland held up their end of the bargain. They showed up. Georgia Tech has all its gate receipts. It's true that John Heisman is a disciplined man. In fact, he was famous for telling his teams, better to have died a small boy than to fumble this football. But he's also a noble sportsman. Maybe he'll show mercy.
No, it's Heisman, no.
Heisman does agree to shorten the game. By 5 minutes. He is a creator of this game. He is a football god, and a god who takes instruction from the God of the Old Testament. He is here to reduce them all to pillars of salt. He is a creator of fear and of you. He will grind your bones to make his bread. Skimming 5 minutes off the end still guarantees Cumberland 25 minutes of horror. Sometimes a weak expression of pity is the deepest act of cruelty.
Play 78. Johnny Dog fields the kick. He looks before him. All his teammates have fallen to the ground in resignation. He staggers to the 10, and then he joins them. Edwards is back in the game, despite being knocked unconscious twice. He takes the snap and pitches it to Johnny Dog, who pitches it back. Neither of them want the ball. They keep tossing it back and forth, demanding that the other one take it. And the weight of a Georgia Tech tackler crashes down on them both. Edwards is carried off the field a third time. All right, brief disclaimer. I'm about to tell you a part of the story that I don't think is true. It's in the book, so I'm going to tell you about it, but as the story goes, by now Cumberland is short on willing and able players. At least 2 players have run away and hid. 2 more players have leg injuries. So Coach Allen ties their injured legs together and has them hobble along on the field as one man.
That I very doubt. I doubt that.
Coach Allen sends in a law student known simply as Pee-wee, who is only here to impress his professors. Pee-wee does not know anything about the rules of football. He is ensured that he will not have to touch the ball or actually do anything. The center direct snaps him the ball. He stumbles around in a state of panic, then flings the ball away in fright. In the ensuing scramble, he runs away. He is now the 4th Cumberland player to try to run out of Grant Field. He hides behind a fence where 2 other players are hiding. They don't want him to give away their hiding spot, so they throw him back over the fence. There is no escape.
Looney Tunes ass.
Play 86. Johnny Dog is chased around the stadium by an actual dog who has wandered in from the stands. Why not? If you're a regular viewer, you'll probably remember this little guy. All I can conclude is that in the early 20th century, wild dogs were everywhere. Play 94. Georgia Tech scores to make it 173.
Oh my god.
The point after attempt that follows is poetry. If Cumberland just lets this extra point sail through, the final score ends up being 223-0. But they block it, unwittingly ensuring the precision of Heisman's revenge. A 22-0 baseball loss is answered by a 222-0 unholy. I don't know how
Holy shit.
resolved to fight at this moment, but they do. They execute what's known as the climb the ladder play, which has since been made illegal. One player gets on all fours and grabs the knees of a second player, who bends over at the waist and grabs the stomach of a third player. A fourth player, Vishy Woods, steps over their backs and shoulders and leaps as high as he can. This is Vishy Woods' face before the play. This is Vishy Woods' face after this play.
Oh, good God. After animal control officers. Honestly, didn't know that. ...1904 Olympic marathon moment. You're a good dog. You're a good dog, Cobra. camera died again. One sec. Okay, so quick thing before I do this. Would people be okay if I end stream and then tomorrow I do the other 12 hours? Does that seem fair? Does that seem like a good enough substitute? Because I'm exhausted. I need sleep. I am very tired. Very, very tired. Would that be okay for people? You dare to violate. Thank you, please. Okay, that's what we're gonna do. So tomorrow I will be back for the other 12 hours. So I hope everyone has a good night. Go be good. Do good things. Do arson. Maybe, I don't know, depending on who or what you're doing arson to. I am exhausted. I need sleep.